Hello, everyone, and thank you for your interest in the PII Vault plugin for Domo Workbench. In this video, we're going to show you how to set up, configure, and run a basic redact job. And in a redact job, what we're going to do is we're going to take the PII that is included in data that you're loading into Workbench. We're going to redact that information, replace it with the PII Vault polyanonymous ID, and get that data loaded into Domo. I've already created the redact job. It's loading some basic data from a CSV file. That data basically just has a profile ID, which is unique to the individual, their name, their date of birth, gender, address, email, phone number, and then some basic information. In this case, it's the goods and services they bought by region. But what we're going to do is we're going to add the PII Vault Transform plugin. And when we do that, we're going to configure it so that that PII does not get into Domo. So there's several parts here that we need to be concerned about. The first is this job going to be a redact job or a mask job? So just type in whatever it is. If it's a redact job, you don't need the mask seed value. If it is a mask job, we'll set the seed value. We'll talk about that in the masking video. The schema from the data set is already loaded. But before we can do anything with it, we need to configure the PII Vault connection. So here is where you have to provide the URL, the account ID, and the API key. All of that information should have been provided by the Vault when it was registered. We're going to go ahead and fill that information in. I'm going to use my account ID in my local Vault here. Your IT staff should have the Vault URL. They may also have the credentials for you as well. So once I put all these in, before I can save it, I need to test the connection. It's going to make sure that we connected. Yes, the Vault credentials are verified. And in this example, I'm running PII Vault version 1.43. So now that I have that, I can save this. So I save it, I can now configure the schema. So I click on configure the schema, and the window is provided here, which has the schema. For each column, you need to set the column type. We've already defaulted every value to be non-PII. That may or may not be the case. In the profile ID, we know that that is the unique value for the individual. So we're going to go ahead and select that. Now, every data file that you put through, every schema has to have one and only one unique key to the individual. It can have as many of the other fields as you want. So we're going to go through and we're going to select first name, last name, etc. To save some time, I'm just going to hit the first letter of the type of PII it is. It's a little bit quicker than scrolling this drop down each and every time. Email. And then these items, the region, the goods, and the services, they're not PII, so we're not going to mark them. You can leave it as non-PII, it can be blank, either of those is fine. The column type group is if I happen to have multiple names or multiple addresses. I can link them together by saying, for instance, a home address, the city, state, zip, street address, all that would be one value, and then all those fields for this business address could be a second value. And so that's how we link the different ones together. The last item is we need to mark and say what is going to be redacted and what is not. So I'm going to go through here and I'm going to redact those values that can uniquely identify the individual. So gender, city, state, and zip are not really, they're PII, so we want to send those to the Vault. But what we don't want to do is redact them because you probably want to use those in your analytics. Totally up to you as to what you redact and what you do not want to redact. If you wanted to redact the region without sending it to the Vault, you can do that as well. But in this case, we're not going to do that. So once I click OK, you'll see that the screen here is already configured. Everything looks good. I'm going to go ahead and save that. And now when I preview this, you'll see that the data that we had before, the profile, the first name, last name, date of birth, address, basically anything we marked as redacted is completely blanked out. There's also this new value called the polyanonymous ID. That will now be up in Domo, and that's the new anonymous value that can be used to link data across different data sets. If you're using the same account ID and the same value as the unique identifier, then every record for that person from that account ID will get the same polyanonymous ID. If it's either a different account or you use a different value as the unique identifier, then they're going to get a different unique ID. Those can be combined later in a matching job, and we'll show you how to do that in a different video. All right, that's it. Thank you very much. Hope you enjoy using the PII Vault.